This podcast is produced by the youth digital media brand Centennial World.
This podcast was recorded on Gadigal land.
We would like to acknowledge the Gadigal of the Eora Nation, the traditional custodians of this land, and pay our respects to the elders both past and present.
Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Welcome to High Stakes.
The podcast about the famous feuds, frenemies, and falling outs that have shaped pop culture. I'm Maddie Bogish.
And I'm Laura Marcia, and we are two Sydney-based journalists obsessed with all things celebrity gossip. Mad Dog, how's your week been so far?
Well, it's only Monday.
Yes.
But I will say the week did not start well for us.
No.
Because we came in to record yesterday. Early Sunday morning, we thought we're doing the deep dive, so we'll get it off of our plates. Normally we record on a Wednesday evening. We got in, did our run through, got the camera set up, went to hit play. No SD card in the camera.
Yeah. Look, it was kind of our fault for not telling podcast mum, Lauren, that we were going to be here. We just rocked up. We realised that we just completely forgot to tell her. So obviously she's a busy bee editing with the SD card. So,
but I'm thinking, my week started pretty poorly, if we're saying the week started on Sunday, so we can really only go up from here.
Well, yes, you had a massage yesterday.
Oh, that's true. You know what?
But today, okay, there's something about the moon, I think, because today's vibes were so off.
Rancid.
I feel the best I've felt all day right now.
That's
honestly
good.
Great news. It's because I'm with my friend. But seriously, today's vibes were really bad.
Before I told her to calm down and Laura said, not helpful. And I was like, you know what? Right. It's actually right. It wasn't helpful.
No, do you know what was helpful though? I went and sat on the grass and put my hands into the grass for like 10 minutes. And then I was like, I'm okay now. Actually, okay.
You're no better than a plant.
I'm not. That's what they call grounding, but I didn't want to take my shoes off because it would be weird.
No, fair.
Yeah.
How are you going?
I'm good. Aside from today, I was in a monumentally disgusting mood all day, but I'm feeling great now.
So funny.
I do have beef to discuss this week.
Oh my God, my favourite. Okay.
Yes. Okay. So, you know when you go to like a ritzy restaurant and the server's like, hi, can I walk you through the menu? Have you been here before? That's how they say it.
Yeah.
And I go, no, I haven't. Yeah, let's do it. And then they go through it and you're like, awesome. And then you order. And then often I'll be like, is that enough food? Because it's bitsies, right? You've got entrees, you've got like tapas, I don't know. But when they tell you like, oh, I don't think you've got enough here. You're going to need like a main. You're going to need another entree. And I'll be like, cool, you're the expert. I've never been here.
Oh my goodness.
But then this has happened to me too many times when I've ordered too much food. And like, yes, the food is delicious and I love it. But when you're paying way more than you want to pay, you can't eat it all. And sometimes so the one I went to was this like really good actually Hungarian restaurant. It was delicious. I'd never had Hungarian food before. But you're not going to put a goulash into a doggy bag.
No, you're not packing that into one of those little plastic containers.
Or like a cucumber dill soup. No.
Or walking out with it under your arm. No, that's how they get you though. They're like, you're going to need more. And every time they say that to me, I think, I know myself and I don't want to waste any food.
Well, that's it. And honestly, my eyes are always bigger than my stomach. And I can eat. And like, I don't know. I just think if it's too much for me, they're doing the wrong thing, generally speaking.
Did you have a male server?
No.
Betrayal by your own kind.
I know, by my own kind. And I was there with my friend Zoe, who eats like a little bird. So I was like, well,
guess we're not taking the goulash and the soup home.
We just like ate all the meat bits for protein purposes. And then we're like, well, that was that. It was delicious, but I just have beef on it. I'm just like, let's not be dishonest here.
No, that's capitalism gone. This is the product of late stage capitalism, isn't it?
I know, but the wastage of food, like you said, is also shit.
Yeah. Oh, well, what are we going to do about it?
I don't know, be more truthful if you're a server listening.
Yeah, if you're a server listening, please don't upsell me. I know exactly what I want, and I don't want to be told that I need more food.
It's true. I used to upsell constantly when I worked at Macca's.
When I worked at Boost Juice, hey, do you want to make that an original for only 50 cents more?
Is that the bigger size?
Yeah.
I would do that.
Yeah, lots of people did. And then they'd be like, oh, but I don't know if I can finish it. And I'm like, oh, you're only paying 50 cents.
Would they say that to you?
There would be a couple of people.
Oh.
Yeah, but also I was a 16-year-old girl.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, la, 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 do you want extra banana in that? Yes.
Oh. Well,
anyway. It's not the same as upselling a $20 dish.
Oh, absolutely. Do you want to talk about the real thing we're here today to talk about?
Oh, let's let's actually talk about the real reason that we're here today. So this week, we're bringing you a juicy little deep dive on Ryan Murphy versus the truth in a true story. We thought it would be a good time to discuss this as the release of Ryan's latest series, Love Story, has brought back his penchant for essentially twisting real-life stories for shocking entertainment and his own gain into the public eye. So for some context here, last week, Ryan Murphy's latest historically inspired series, Love Story, was released. Love Story is a dramatization of the whirlwind romance of JFK Jr., the son of assassinated President JFK Sr. and Jackie Onassis, and American publicist and fashion icon Carolyn Bessette.
Carolyn was working as a publicist for Calvin Klein and often dealt with VIP clients, but was pretty much out of the public eye. In 1992, she met JFK Jr. when she was assigned to help him buy some suits.
That is such a task. That's giving Rachel Green in that episode of Friends where she's tasked to help Joshua.
Oh my God, yes, Joshua. I need to rewatch. Anyway, so at the time, JFK Jr. was dating movie star Daryl Hannah, but in 1994, JFK and Carolyn started dating and they became fodder for the tabloids. He also proposed to her in 1995, but it reportedly took 3 weeks for her to say yes.
Honestly, no, good for her.
Love it.
But before Carolyn and JFK Jr. started dating,
Yeah.
he was dating Daryl Hannah.
Yes.
And Daryl Hannah has a really bad edit, also I've heard from my colleague, in Love Story, which we'll get on to later, I guess, when we start talking about Ryan's penchant for creating caricatures of real people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So bats out for Daryl Hannah on that one.
Anyway, back to Carolyn and JFK. They got married in 1996, but at this point, they couldn't do anything without having the paparazzi follow them. They were faced with intense media scrutiny, like it was absolutely bananas. But tragically, in 1999, the couple, along with Carolyn's sister Lauren, died in a plane crash.
Yeah, it is a really tragic story,
Yeah.
isn't it? One that so many people use to point to the existence of the Kennedy curse, which if you don't know about it, look it up.
Yep.
You know, that's all we're going to say about that one. So it's no wonder that film and television producer Ryan Murphy took their story on board for the glitzy biographical drama series. But not everyone was completely jazzed with Ryan's big idea. JFK Jr.'s nephew, Jack Schlossberg, took to Instagram in a post back in June 2025 saying, "Lately, my newsfeed has been filled with pictures of my uncle, John F. Kennedy Jr., a great man. For those wondering whether his family was ever consulted or has anything to do with the new shows being made about him, the answer is no. And there's not really much we can do. I think admiration for my Uncle John is great. What I don't think is great is profiting off of it in a grotesque way." Then, when Ryan shared a first look at the actors Paul Kelly and Sarah Pigeon on Instagram, Jack went on to comment on the post. "Hey Ryan," in capitals, "admiration for John is great, but maybe consider donating profits to the Kennedy Library. Thanks."
I love the contrast of the capital letters with then thanks. Full stop.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks was in normal case. And that is obviously in reference to JFK Sr.'s Presidential Library, which is located in Boston. And then in response, Ryan gave I absolutely will.
I just feel like, would he have done that if he wasn't called out?
Absolutely
No.
not. No way. Anyway, the series was also slammed for the styling of Sarah Pigeon because Carolyn was this huge fashion icon. I think, as you mentioned, she did PR for Calvin Klein. So big fashion icon. And she wore very gorgeous, clean designer outfits.
Yeah. And I mean, even the fashion critic, Danya Isawi from The Cut, really read the styling to film in an article. She wrote, "These Carolyn Bessette Kennedy costumes don't fit the bill. These do not appear to be the understated, tailored, and soft yet structured Calvin Klein, Prada, and Yohei Yamamoto garments Bessette Kennedy wore in the 90s, nor are they reminiscent of them. Instead, I feel like I'm looking at Mango and Zara."
Jesus.
Meanwhile, Carolyn's real hairdresser, Brad Johns, said that the hair was all wrong. So while Ryan Murphy was copping heat from all angles from the style set, he made a comment to Variety that he was surprised at how inflammatory people became from these first look images. He also revealed that he'd brought on a 10-person style advisory board, which is interesting. And this is what he said. "There were comments like, 'I hate that coat. Carolyn would have never worn that. That was just a coat we threw on for colour.' People were writing, 'How dare you use the number 35 Birkin bag? She wore a 40. Yes, we have a 40, but we just threw on the bag from another costume department because that was the soundstage we were on.'
I don't know if I believe that.
I'm like, sure, but also taking on a real life story, he should know that these little things have meaning. Like maybe I'm just being, I don't know, pernickety about it.
Maybe.
But like this is just, he's making excuses. I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Anyway.
Anyway, he also said that the scrutiny Sarah Pigeon was receiving was similar to that of the real Carolyn. And I quote, "We're writing a story about a person, an unknown person who falls in love with the most famous man in the world. And suddenly she can't leave her house. She was constantly being photographed, being called a cunt by the paparazzi. They're doing to our Carolyn what they did to the real life Carolyn. It's not fair."
I just think that's an interesting take.
It's a stretch.
Perhaps an incorrect take. I don't doubt that she was facing criticism, but I don't think it was to the extent that Carolyn Bessette Kennedy was facing criticism.
Absolutely not. And it was also not criticism aimed at her.
No, it was aimed at Ryan.
People were saying that she looked remarkably similar to her. It was like the styling was wrong. That's not on her.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, while this scandal, if you will, doesn't feel overly inflammatory, despite what Ryan might be suggesting, the only reason that there is such a magnifying glass over Ryan Murphy is because of his penchant for taking real life stories and revisiting them. However, in the process, he often upsets loved ones of victims and viewers alike with his sensationalist artistic style.
So while the love story drama has been in the news cycle, it's not the first time that Ryan Murphy has been in the shitter for adapting true stories, especially crime into dramatized tales. But before we get into the many scandals of Ryan Murphy, let's get to know him, shall we?
Let's do it. In case you haven't come across the name Ryan Murphy before, Ryan is a prolific TV and film producer, director, and writer. In fact, The New Yorker referred to him as the most powerful man in TV. And I feel like we would call him FX's golden boy, right?
Yeah, Maddie said this yesterday and I could not agree more.
Yeah, when we did our
impressed.
When I did our mock record. Yeah, because Ryan Murphy is pretty synonymous with FX.
Absolutely.
He's done All's Fair. He's done The Beauty most recently. He's obviously got this love story situation. What else has he done that's
Glee?
FX? Oh, yeah, Glee. That's quite a big one, isn't it? Yeah. Anyway, like we said, Ryan is also responsible for the iconic and at times audacious shows including Glee, American Horror Story, all 12, almost 13 seasons.
Jeez.
The Politician. I don't know if The Politician is actually one of his most iconic, but it's one of my personal favourites.
I love The Politician so much. And can I just say, all right, so Ben Platt, I know he's had his time and some people feel mixed ways, but when he sang Billy Joel's Vienna on that piano, something shifted within me. I'm not even kidding. That's my favourite song of all time.
Literally.
So I've never been the same since.
Bring back Ben, maybe, and also bring back Gwyneth Paltrow as his cunty little mum.
I forgot about it's time to rewatch. Anyway, because that one also, can I just add, is fictional.
Yes, that's the difference.
Fictional.
It's fictional. And also most recently, Ryan has produced All's Fair and The Beauty. But how exactly did our boy get here?
Well, Ryan Murphy was born on November 9, 1965, making him a Scorpio, which is quite scary for us personally.
Terrifying for us.
He grew up Irish Catholic in Indianapolis in the US with his brother Darren, his father Jim, who was a newspaper circulation director, and his mother Andy, who was a writer who worked in corporate PR. Before entering the film and TV industry, Ryan initially had his sights set on journalism, and he studied at Indiana University and interned for the Washington Post before moving to LA to become an entertainment and lifestyle journalist. That's the same as us.
Same as us.
But it wasn't until 1995 that he became a screenwriter. As we mentioned, Ryan grew up in the conservative state of Indiana, and he reportedly dreamed of becoming the Pope, citing that his first celebrities were nuns. However, Ryan's wish to marry the church and end up as part of like a cunty little conclave didn't seem to deter him from coming out gay, thank God, at a young age.
Anyway, in an interview for The New Yorker, journalist Emily Nussbaum said this: "Many gay men of his era have awful coming out stories involving years of closeted self-loathing. Murphy was never in. He was the sort of altar boy who fantasized not about the priesthood, but about becoming the Pope. If I cannot," sorry, every time I read this quote, it makes me laugh. "If I cannot rise to the top of my profession," he said, mimicking himself as a child, "I absolutely will not go." When he was 4, his beloved maternal grandmother, Myrtle, and his mother, Andy, took him to see Barbara Streisand in Funny Girl. Murphy left the cinema in a state of bliss. "I was like," and he snapped his fingers and grinned at the memory, imitating a preschooler having an epiphany, "That's it, I'm gay, and I'm going into show business."
I love that so much. And it reminds me so much of my screenwriter friend, Danny. Danny Hayek, very talented. Probably the next Ryan Murphy, who knows?
Without the controversy.
Without the controversy. Anyway, back to Ryan Murphy. So despite this, he does detail that his father, Jim, had a disturbance with his queerness, or as he recalls it, an alien quality. He recalls a time when Jim would wake him in the middle of the night, take Ryan into the kitchen and ask him, "Why don't I see myself in you?" and try to beat his sexuality out of him. He then grew up to become estranged from his parents, particularly his father, who died in 2011, But his upbringing as a queer theatre kid would form the basis of a lot of his work, including the iconic TV series Glee, which first aired on May 19, 2009 to 9.62 million viewers.
2 of them being us.
I was about to ask, yeah. And Glee was a show which Ryan says was designed to give queer kids someone they could root for. Yes, the characters were insufferable, but with a central gay character and a major lesbian love story and representation for disabled and POC characters, even though the man who played the said disabled character was actually able-bodied.
Yeah, Artie was famously able-bodied, yeah.
But it was groundbreaking at the time. So would you call yourself a Gleek?
Yes, but only for the first 2 seasons.
That's fair. I think everyone our age at the time was a Gleek, and then you either grew out of it or you didn't.
Yeah, you really stuck in there. But I think the first 2 seasons were also the best.
Oh, yeah.
They won all that was where most of the awards were.
Totally, and I still remember the chills I got when I watched Don't Stop Believing for the first time.
That's how I felt when they did Rolling on a River.
Incredible.
That's Aretha Franklin originally, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah, nice. It was so good.
Rolling.
Because didn't they have Artie roll past in his wheelchair?
God, if they didn't, then they've missed an opportunity. I don't remember it
Get us
visually,
back.
but I do remember when they brought in Blaine, who was played by Darren Criss. I was like,
He's your type. Is he?
who isn't?
No, it's true. Anyway, who was your favourite character on Glee?
Oh my God. I actually don't know. I really did like Sue.
Oh, yes. I think I like Sue more now than I did when I was watching.
You're right.
I resonate with Sue.
But I just think all of the one-liners came as a bounce off from Sue.
There's only one person who can tell you who you are.
Myself?
No, me, Sue Sylvester. I could quote Sue Sylvester all day though, but I won't. Anyway, back to Glee. Over its 6 years, Glee won 77 major awards, including 6 Primetime Emmys, 4 Golden Globes, and 7 SAG Awards. And Ryan says this about Glee's success. Against all odds, the quote-unquote F-slur, I'll let you fill that in, musical became a billion-dollar brand. And I did adore Glee so much, but I do think watching it with a 2026 lens, a lot of the stuff wouldn't float.
Yeah.
It makes me sad. All of my favourite childhood things are being ripped out from underneath me because it just isn't particularly appropriate.
Totally.
And just to refresh our memories, let's revisit some of our favourite Glee bits as brought to you by Glee Thing on TikTok.
Thanks.
It's the capital of Ohio. Brittany. Oh.
Brittany and I were just having sexual relations.
Oh my God. Baby Black?
25% show tunes, 25% hip hop, 25% classic rock, 100% gay. Get ready, black girl from Glee Club, whose name I can't remember right now.
Has life changed since the birth of your bastard child?
This is where our daughter or gay son will sleep.
Guys, it's like cool epilepsy. What are you doing? Throwing sticks at your head?
What do you guys say when you answer the phone?
What up?
Who this be?
No, she's dead. This is her son.
We got a gay. Go. Go, I've got to go.
What is your problem, Finn? It's just a moist salad.
And when I pulled the sandwich out, I saw the face of God. Literally, I had made a grilled cheeses.
If it isn't Tweedledum and Tweedlefake brood, you know, there's only one person in this world who can tell you what you are. Me. Now, me.
And that's how Sue sees it.
Perfect. Do you remember the Glee project?
I do. I watched it.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I think this is something we'll get into, but I have a theory about the Glee project, and it was that Ryan Murphy had essentially run out of ideas and he was just using kids as caricatures.
I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just remember,
That's a crime.
it did, to be fair, launch Alex Newell's career.
That's one career.
It's true. Whatever happened to that little Irish boy?
Oh no, but they loved talking about how Irish he was.
They did. Wow. And the guy with dreads.
Okay, I don't remember him. So for those who aren't up to speed, Glee Project was a reality TV show that Ryan Murphy and Brad Falchuk kind of co-created to help them find more people to be on Glee, essentially, because the kids were going to grow up and graduate high school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they did, I think Glee in its later phases, they went to New York and they went to like music school of sorts. But I don't know, I stopped really watching after high school.
Anyway.
Anyway.
Before Glee, though, there was Ryan's first show, Popular, which starred Leslie Bibb, Carly Pope, and Tara Mello in 1999. But at the time, many of Ryan's ideas for the show were criticised by TV executives for being, well, too gay. And that's a quote from Ryan, not me. Essentially, Popular had a lot of the same themes as Glee, but it was just sans the music. And despite the show being axed after just 2 seasons, it wasn't enough to stunt Ryan's illustrious 26-year career, which has seen him produce upwards of 40 different TV series. Which we will note is an incredible amount, but according to Ryan, his productivity is predominantly fueled by being scared of catching AIDS and dying. I think it's a disastrous, what's the word that I'm looking for?
Disastrous sounds pretty good.
What's the word when you're assuming the worst?
Pessimistic.
No, that's not it. Catastrophic. He's catastrophizing. He's
Oh, yes.
Yes, he's really catastrophized that one, but I do think it paints a really interesting picture of like his motives and his mind.
Yes, that's a very, very good point.
Thank you.
Yes, and as of February 2026, Ryan has won 6 Primetime Emmy Awards from 39 nominations, a Tony Award, 2 Grammy nominations, and is a Television Academy Hall of Fame inductee. Very impressive.
Very impressive.
And while the devil works hard, but Ryan Murphy works harder, throughout his career, Ryan has been criticised for his sensationalism when it comes to dramatising real crimes. So while he's done this in Love Story, American Horror Story, and American Crime Story, today we're going to be focusing on the Monster Anthology series, which walks a razor-thin line between telling the story as it happened and dramatising real people's trauma for mass consumption and media frenzy.
Yeah, so the first cab off the rank is Monsters, the Jeffrey Dahmer story, which is a true crime miniseries Ryan created with Ian Brennan for Netflix as part of a $300 million USD deal. As the title suggests, it follows the life of American sex offender and serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer, also known as the Milwaukee Cannibal, who murdered and dismembered 17 men and boys between 1978 and 1991. Dahmer's crimes involved necrophilia and cannibalism, and he was convicted of 15 murders in 1992 and was later killed in prison in 1994. The series starred Evan Peters, who worked on American Horror Story and also most recently The Beauty with Ryan. And Evan was praised for his performance as Dahmer and even took out the Golden Globe for Best Actor in a Limited Series. As you can imagine, though, embodying a serial killer for months is pretty emotionally draining. And speaking to Vanity Fair, Evan said that he had to take an extended period of time away from acting, which largely consisted of him watching a lot of Step Brothers to recover from how intense the work was on his mental health.
Yeah, in the article, which was written 2 years after Dahmer aired, it made it pretty clear that Evan is one of those really immersive method actors because a lot of Dahmer's story before the murders wasn't really known. So Evan had to create this version of him for himself. And I'll read out a passage from the article. I think it sums it up beautifully. All this required a new level of staying in character for Peters. His co-star, Niecy Nash-Betts, previously said that during filming, people would say, "What is Evan like?" And I'd say, I don't know the man," adding that they only met properly after wrapping production. Peters reflects on the immersion as one of exploring what he was capable of as a performer. "I really did learn my limits," he says. "I pushed myself to the absolute limit just to see where it was, what I could do, and where I could go." By the end of the months-long shoot, he felt proud, drained, and relieved. "I finished as strong as I started," hence the long break. It's coming up on 2 years since Dahmer filmed. You hear its seismic impact on Peters in all of his answers, and every pause between them. Did the break work? Is he ready to get back out there? Yeah, please hire me," Peters says with a laugh. And after this, who knows what he'll pull off next.
I do know that, like, when you're an actor, challenging yourself in these types of positions and roles makes a lot of sense. Like, how are you going to progress as an actor if you're not constantly doing it? But it would be so emotionally taxing, right?
It'd be insane.
And what type of support do they have for actors after they take on these really monumental and like twisted roles, especially ones that are based on like true, real people?
For months, for literal months, on a much smaller scale. I used to work for a real life magazine. So what that involves is interviewing people. Like, you take like an hour or two to interview someone, and then you write their story from their perspective in the first person. And like, even then sometimes, because you're doing dozens of stories a week, when they're really hardcore trauma and you're putting yourself in their shoes, I found that really hard mentally. And I didn't always feel like there was enough support for me, little old me writing these stories, let alone for someone stepping into the shoes of a serial killer who killed multiple people for 6 months.
It's true. Oh, yep, it's true. Yeah.
Indeed.
Anyway, the miniseries controversies weren't actually tied to anything that the cast and crew experienced while shooting, and the Jeffrey Dahmer story ended up being one of Ryan's biggest hits and the streamer's third most popular English-speaking series. However, families of Jeffrey Dahmer's victims, including Errol Lindsay, who was just 19 years old when he was murdered by Dahmer in 1991, came out and said they weren't actually contacted by Netflix or Ryan Murphy about the miniseries and only found out about it when it launched to the public. So yikes. Lindsay's sister Rita Isbell, who was portrayed in the series reading out her very passionate and distraught statement to Dahmer after her brother was murdered, echoed this sentiment as told to piece for Business Insider. If I didn't know any better, I would have thought it was me. Her hair was like mine. She had on the same clothes. That's why it felt like reliving it all over again. It brought back all the emotions I was feeling back then. I was never contacted about the show. I feel like Netflix should have asked if we mind or how we felt about making it. They didn't ask me anything. They just did it.
She continued, but I'm not money hungry, and that's what this show is about, Netflix trying to get paid. I could even understand if they gave some of the money to the victims' children, not necessarily their families. I mean, I'm old, I'm very, very comfortable, but the victims have children and grandchildren. If the show benefited them in some way, it wouldn't feel so harsh and careless. It's sad that they're just making money off this tragedy. That's just greed. The episode with me was the only part I saw. I didn't watch the whole show. I don't need to watch it. I lived it. I know exactly what happened.
I do just think the whole, like, if I didn't know any better, I would have thought it was me line to be so chilling.
It is, yeah.
Like, Rita also notes that the statement she made was her literally just letting Dahmer have it because she didn't know that she could, like, have the opportunity to speak to him. And then in the piece, she's like, I was faced with evil and I just, like, let loose. So I do think this, like, really raw emotional visual, having to rewatch that then would have been so re-traumatizing, especially if it's an actor that isn't living your truth.
I can't even imagine how hard that would be. So Ryan claims that he contacted about 20 families for input for the series, but none of them responded. Do we want to call bullshit on that though?
Yes, also, non-compliance isn't permission.
I know.
Like, I just think if people aren't responding to you, you probably don't do it anyway.
Yeah, exactly right. And also, obviously she had thoughts. This is a very passionate piece. You can tell it's written from a very strong place. I'm pretty sure if they were contacted, they would have said something. So
Yeah.
all of that feels yuck.
Yep. I know. I agree.
Anyway, despite the backlash Ryan, Ian, and Netflix faced regarding the Dahmer story, it didn't stop them from repeating the same mistake in 2024. This time around, they produced the second season of the Monster Anthology series based on the Menendez brothers, Lyle and Eric, who shot and killed their parents, Jose and Kitty, in their Beverly Hills home on August 20, 1989. The brothers were convicted of first-degree murder in 1996 following a confession Eric made to his therapist, and they were both sentenced to life in prison without parole. At the time, prosecutors contended that Lyle and Eric killed Jose and Kitty to inherit their parents' fortune. However, the defense argued that the killings were a desperate reaction to years of sexual, emotional, and physical abuse by their father.
Yeah, and one thing I would actually love to point out in the difference between the Dahmer story and the Eric and Lyle story is that the Menendez brothers are still alive.
Yeah.
And they are currently in prison. They are still in jail for the crimes that they have committed. So I just find this part in particular, this story in particular, to be the worst for me.
Yeah. Especially when we get to some of the bits we're going to talk about in a minute.
Yeah, exactly. Something to remember here. Anyway,
Yes.
so the series put the convicted brothers at the center of the show, and while there was depiction of sexual abuse to support Eric and Lyle's defense, Ryan also portrayed the brothers as having an incestuous relationship. So this is something that journalists and commentators argued wasn't really supported by factual evidence. So this is Ryan just taking creative liberty and creating caricatures out of alive people who have been traumatized. Anyway, and the brothers spoke out about this with Lyle posting a statement to Facebook saying how the show was a dishonest portrayal of him and Eric. In Eric's words, I believe we have moved past the lies and ruinous character portrayals of Lyle, creating a caricature of Lyle rooted in horrible and blatant lies rampant in the show. I can only believe they were done so on purpose. It is with a heavy heart that I say I believe Ryan Murphy cannot be this naive and inaccurate about the facts of our lives so as to do this without bad intent.
He continued, "It is sad for me to know that Netflix's dishonest portrayal of the tragedies surrounding our crime have taken the painful truths several steps backwards. Back through time to an era where the prosecution built a narrative on belief system that males were not sexually abused and that males experienced rape trauma differently than women. Those awful lies have been disrupted and exposed by countless brave victims over the last 2 decades who have broken through their personal shame and bravely spoken out. So now Murphy shapes his horrible narrative through vile and appalling character portrayals of Lyle and me and disheartening slander. Is the truth not enough? Let the truth stand as truth. How demoralizing to know that one man with power can undermine decades of progress in shedding light on childhood trauma. Violence is never an answer, never a solution, and is always tragic. As such, I hope it is never forgotten that violence against a child creates 100 horrendous and silent crime scenes, darkly shadowed behind glitter and glamour and rarely exposed until tragedy penetrates everyone involved. To all of those who have reached out and supported me, thank you from the bottom of my heart." So it's pretty clear that the show was evidently blurring fact and fiction. And at this point that we can say that using the story of a real super horrific crime and injecting it with what almost appears to be fantasy in this instance is absolutely wrong. And it doesn't matter to Ryan if the victims are alive or dead.
No, apparently not. But despite the outrage, Ryan maintains that by giving screen time to the brothers' perspective on what happened to them, which we can give him credit for, he did address the sexual abuse. He helped to reignite a conversation about abuse and the legal process. However, in an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, Ryan said the following: "The Menendez brothers should be sending me flowers. They haven't had so much attention in 30 years, and it's gotten the attention of not only this country, but all over the world. There's an outpouring of interest in their lives and the case. I know for a fact that many people have offered to help them because of the interest of my show and what we did. What the Menendez brothers and their people neglect is that we were telling a story that was a very broad canvas. We had an obligation to so many people, not just to Eric and Lyle, but that's what I find so fascinating, that they're playing the victim card right now. Poor, pitiful us, which I find reprehensible and disgusting."
Interesting.
This quote is so strange.
It's very bizarre.
It's so bad. So it really does rub me the wrong way.
yeah.
I think Ryan has a point. He did bring the case back into the spotlight. But I would argue that a lot of people actually had a lot of interest in this case before him.
Yeah, it was a big one on true crime podcasts, obviously. Big one there.
Yeah.
Big one on Reddit. Not to say that those things and these discussions aren't flawed, but they didn't ask to be made into a TV show. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, exactly. And I do think that good TV shows and films, particularly ones that are based on fact, can be used as a vessel to reignite these really important conversations. However, the undertone that I'm getting from Ryan here is, fuck you, you're still in jail, and without me, no one would give a shit about your case, so what, I made you make out.
Oh my God, yeah.
That
that
is
is exactly it, yeah.
That's literally what he's saying. It's just it's bizarre. It's a bizarre, they should be sending me flowers. Oh, no worries, they can send you flowers from prison.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You should be sending them flowers.
Absolutely. The idea of adding an incestuous element that is not supported by fact is actually bananas to me and not appropriate in any way, shape or form. So, whatever. But look, obviously, it's not all bad here because in May 2025, largely because of the renewed public interest, Eric and Lyle were handed reduced sentences, although their parole was denied later that year. So the boys are still in prison while Ryan, Ian and Netflix roll around in the money that they got after creating a yassified retelling of other people's trauma.
I think a yassified version is a really good way to put it.
I agree.
Yeah, I just think that's exactly what he's done. He's added a little bit of flair.
Yeah, more than a little bit.
A lot.
But let's go to the third series of Monster, Ed Gein. So in Ryan Murphy's third and most recent true crime adaptation, he takes aim at Ed Gein. Now, Ed Gein was one of the most infamous serial killers of all time. Known as the Butcher of Plainfield, the Wisconsin native was found to not only have killed 2 women, but also stole corpses from local graveyards and made keepsakes from their bones and their skin.
Yeah, what he did was fucked.
So fucked. He was found guilty of one murder in 1968 and responsible for another murder, but shortly after he was found to be legally insane and he was remanded to a psychiatric institution. With the terrifying added element of the keepsakes and body desecration, Ed Gein became the inspiration for the likes of The Silence of the Lambs, Psycho, and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So even though he didn't kill as many people as the other people in the Monster Anthology series, he definitely became this like almost pop culture figure. Gross, but whatever. In October 2025, Monster, the Ed Gein stories starring Charlie Hunnam as Ed Gein was released. According to Netflix, the goal was to tell the story of how one simple man in Plainfield, Wisconsin, became history's most singular ghoul. But rather than tell the story factually, the Monster version has Gein as this unreliable narrator due to his schizophrenia. However, there were things in the story that just didn't factually happen. For example, the show depicts Gein as being responsible for the kidnap and torture of Evelyn Hartley, who was played by Addison Rae, may I note. So while Evelyn was a real person, her disappearance occurred about 2 hours away from where Gein lived, and he was cleared of any involvement back in 1957.
But one of the most controversial elements was the way Monster included the story of a transgender woman named Christine Jorgensen. Christine travelled to Denmark in the 1950s for gender-affirming treatments and became a celebrity in the US when she returned. She's widely known for being one of the first women in the United States for having gender-affirming surgery. While there is some evidence to support that Gein was interested in Jorgensen, some viewers felt that the show perpetuated harmful stereotypes by linking gender variance with violence or deviance. And it's especially poignant due to the extra scrutiny faced by trans people. Here's how Richard Lawson put it for The Guardian. There is some editorialisation happening under the show's surface that feels awfully pointed at trans people, which may be deliberate. In the final episode, trans icon Christine Jorgensen gets a chance to push back against any idea that Gein is among her cohort. Monster might be presenting this dangerous conflation only to dispel it, but it takes a long time to get to that place of nuanced understanding. There are hours and hours of the series in which gender queerness is carelessly compared with harmful deviance.
Yeah. Not good. And I want to add here that this is yet another yassified retelling of trauma.
So bad.
And obviously there are some scenes that are particularly shocking and horrific, but there's also some that are a little bit more camp, although apparently Ryan Murphy hates the word camp.
Which is funny because all of his stuff is really camp.
Yeah, that's probably why he hates it, because everyone just describes it as camp and he's sick of
He's like, give me another word. All right.
saturated, sensationalist.
Yeah, sensationalist. But it's camp.
It's camp. We were talking about this the other day. Should a retelling of a true crime story be afforded moments of campness and lightness when it's this serious?
I don't think so. There's one scene in Ed Gein where, isn't he playing with Addison Rae's dead body?
I don't know.
Have you seen it?
I've seen bits, but it really wasn't my thing.
What's the worst rated out of the three?
Because I started it and I just honestly couldn't really finish it. It just wasn't it for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, honestly, Ryan didn't face too much backlash on this one, probably because most of the victims' families are dead. But I also think that people at this point are kind of used to his shtick. They know that he's going to take a real life story and adapt it in a way that kind of is inflammatory and upsets people. Because he's done that with his fictional shows as well as his real life stories.
Yeah. So what do we make of all this? Ryan versus the truth in a true story.
Oh my gosh, I think we have a lot of thoughts.
Yeah. Do I start?
I think you should take it away because I've just talked a lot.
Oh, we've had enough of you. Get out of here. Anyway, one criticism that I will note that I saw on Reddit was the thousands of true crime podcasts would like a word.
Yeah.
So people are saying, you know, true crime podcasts are the same as what Ryan Murphy has done.
I don't know if I totally agree with that.
Someone is saying this fictional and yassified retelling of a true crime is the same as true crime podcasts. But I would argue that in most cases, a lot of them are in documentary style and they are generally supported by investigative journalism and don't include dramatizations to essentially boost the profits of like the world's biggest streaming services.
Oh my gosh, yeah, totally. Such a good point. I also think that where the Venn diagram overlaps here is for Gein. Like Ryan Murphy is making a profit. True crime podcasts probably make a profit.
Yeah.
They're doing it. There's certain reasons why. I think that Ryan Murphy is addicted to this thing called wound culture. So this is a term coined by Mark Seltzer in the 1990s, and it refers to how society is obsessed with bodily and psychological wounds, especially if it was caused by some sort of violent trauma, whether it be physical or emotional. So in wound culture, private suffering becomes this public spectacle, and all of a sudden everyone gets to participate with this trauma through media. It becomes a shared trauma. And I just feel like that's his whole thing. He takes these old wounds, he reheats it, and he makes it grabby, and then it becomes this big communal viewing event, and we're all reacting online, and we're essentially bonding over other people's trauma. And it's gross, but it's also how I would argue podcasts sometimes, like true crime podcasts, shows like this about real things, it's all playing into that.
Yeah.
And it's this weird kind of it just keeps going around in circles. You know what I mean?
Oh my God, you're so right. I've never thought of it like that. I've never thought of it like that because I never really particularly enjoy true crime anything.
Have you ever
Makes
been
my-
into true crime?
No, never.
Okay, fair.
Never ever.
I started listening to My Favorite Murder on episode 4 when they started.
Yeah.
And I was really into it for a few years and I loved true crime. But then it got to a point where my anxiety went through the roof. And I was like, wow, I wonder why this quite negative media is causing a spike in my anxiety. Crazy. I think it's interesting, and a lot of it is women who want to self-protect themselves. A lot of
Yeah.
true crime was people being like, okay, if I'm in this situation, this is what I do, or this is how do I avoid this?
This is how I win over a murderer.
Yes,
Yeah.
things like that. But it's quite a negative subject matter.
No.
And it isn't our trauma. It's not.
No.
But it becomes a shared experience for people, and a lot of people bond over that. Not necessarily saying that's a good or bad thing. It's just kind of what we're now seeing and the way that media works.
Yeah.
So-
And I think even in the case of Love Story, it almost just seems to me, like we've said at the beginning of this, Ryan has produced upwards of 40 different series. Wow. And he famously made his own reality show so he could get more ideas. I just think him taking people's true stories is just because he's out of ideas.
Yeah.
He can't think of anything original. And another thing I would like to point out about Ryan Murphy is he also has released The Beauty, which I'm watching and I really enjoy. But The Beauty allegedly was signed off on a week after Substance was released in cinemas.
You were kidding
allegedly,
me.
according to Reddit. Yes. So, and it's very similar. Like the premise is very similar.
So similar.
So similar. The Beauty is good, and it almost does tap into that wound culture thing you were talking about. Like, there are all of these people suffering, and you watch it and you feel emotionally invested because you are watching people suffer. But again, it's fictional, it's a little bit different. But he also cast Demi Moore's ex-husband, Ashton Kutcher, as
God,
the
he
lead.
did.
I'm like, was that on purpose?
Wow.
Was that on purpose? Were you trying to make it obvious that you were just taking someone else's idea? I just think, Ryan Murphy, maybe you can have a break. If you can't think of any original ideas, maybe just have a rest.
Go on a holiday.
Put your feet up. Stop taking people's real trauma and yassifying it, painting the queer community in a bad light, which is exactly what he did with the Menendez brothers. Like,
Yeah.
the way that he did that, I just think is sickening.
I think it's sickening too. Isn't The Beauty also more of a conversation about like Ozempic culture and beauty culture and incels? And
Well,
I haven't seen it though.
not really. So spoilers, sorry everyone. The Beauty, it goes through the same thing. So the main character is Ashton Kutcher. He's approached by a doctor. Him and these 5 other people, they all inject themselves with this substance that causes them to transform into the best version of themselves. So while there's no life force, there is still something that turns them into the best version of themselves. But then this also does become a virus essentially, and turns into a street version of itself, which causes people to spread it like an STI. It's very convoluted how he's done it. You can say, yeah, he got inspiration from the substance, but it's it's very clear he got inspiration from the substance.
Even so I've seen the trailer and it's very clear from that alone, but even the body horror element,
Yeah.
the way that
People
there's
are
blood and
exploding.
guts and
Yeah.
explosions, which is a very, very big theme in the substance. Great film though.
I love the
I
substance.
loved it. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's a good point. And The Beauty people do like.
I
Maya
really do love The Beauty.
I'm excited to watch it.
But I am watching it with a critical eye.
As we should. I do think, though, I would like Ryan Murphy to perhaps stick to fiction.
Yeah, I think stick to fiction.
'Cause it's good.
Stick to fiction. Cast Evan Peters in more things. And Emma Roberts. Bring back Emma Roberts in American Horror Story.
I thought All's Fair, while it was terrible,
I hate All's Fair.
it was bad, but I think that TV can be bad and you can like it for other reasons. It was like a cunty little outfit runway the whole time.
Yep.
I wasn't watching for the storyline. I don't give a shit about Glenn Close.
No, neither.
Anyway,
Anyway, because we did turn this episode into a bit of a grim episode, lots of talk about true crime, which isn't really our forte. We thought we would end on other crimes Ryan Murphy has committed.
Yeah,
So we're just going to read out one at a time?
I think so.
All right. Subjecting us to Mr. Schuster for 6 seasons of Glee.
Putting Sarah Paulson in horrible wigs for American Horror Story. Not renewing The Politician for a 3rd season, but instead giving us fuck true crime dramas because we want to see what happens to Peyton Hobart and we want Gwyneth Paltrow to return as his mother.
Kickstarting Kim Kardashian's non-reality TV career in American Horror Story and All's Fair. Stick to reality TV, babes. You've already got your fingers in so many pies. Just take some more out. Like,
Yeah,
you don't
she's
need...
pied out. She's in a bakery. Killing Muppety in American Horror Story Freak Show.
Oh my God. American Horror Story Freak Show in general.
Yes. Mr. Schuster singing the thong song.
Mr. Schuster getting 2 mentions is crazy.
Honestly,
we
but-
hate him.
I kind of have a soft spot now for what's his name again? I've blanked.
Matthew.
Matthew Morrison.
Yeah.
I find Matthew Morrison to be so funny. Maybe for my birthday, if someone could get me a cameo, I don't know. He's doing a one-man show at the moment. Oh my God. And I just keep getting clips of him and he loves himself. He loves performing. And I don't think he cares if people are like making fun of him or not. Like he's just having the best time. And I think we can all learn from that. He climbed Cringe Mountain.
He did, and he got to the top.
He put a flag on Cringe Mountain and then he sang the thong song.
All right. Should we end it at that
We
one?
need to, yeah.
All right. That's all we have time for today.
Thanks for listening. You can follow High Stakes on Spotify or anywhere you get your podcast.
And don't forget, you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at High Stakes Pod.
Love ya. Bye.